Section 20 of Dangerous Connections. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Dangerous Connections by Pierre Choderlos de Laclos. Section 20, Letters 96-100. Letter the 96th. The Vicomte de Valmont to the Marquise de Merteuil.
I will wager that since your adventure you have been daily expecting my compliments and praises. I doubt not even that you feel a trifle out of humour at my long silence. But what do you expect? I have always thought that when one has naught but praise to give a woman, one may be at one's ease about her, and occupy oneself with other matters. However, I thank you on my own account, and congratulate you on yours. I am even ready to make you completely happy by admitting that this time you have surpassed my expectation. After that, let us see if on my side I have come up to yours, at least in part. It is not of Madame de Tourvel that I want to talk to you. Her too laggard progress, I know, displeases you. You only love accomplished facts. Spun out scenes weary you. For my part, I had never tasted such pleasure as I find in these feigned delays. Yes, I love to see, to watch this prudent woman engaged without her perceiving it on a course which admits of no return, whose rapid and dangerous declivity carries her on in spite of herself, and forces her to follow me. Then, terrified at the danger she runs, she would fain halt, but cannot hold herself in. Her skill and caution can indeed shorten her steps, yet they must inevitably succeed one another. Sometimes, not daring to behold the danger, she shuts her eyes, and, letting herself go, abandons herself to my care. More often, a fresh alarm reanimates her efforts. In her mortal terror, she would attempt once more to turn back. She wastes her strength in painfully overcoming a short distance, and soon a magic power replaces her nearer to that danger which she had vainly sought to fly. Then, having only me for guide and support, with no more thought to reproach me for an inevitable fall, she implores me to retard it. Fervent prayers, humble supplications, all that mortals in their terror offer to the divinity, it is I who receive them from her. And you would have me, deaf to her entreaties, and myself destroying the cult which she pays me, employ, to precipitate her, the power which she invokes for her support. Oh, leave me at least the time to observe those touching combats between love and virtue. How then? Do you think that the same spectacle which makes you run eagerly to the theatre, which you applaud there with fury, is less engrossing in real life? Those sentiments of a pure and tender soul, which dreads the happiness which it desires, and never ceases to defend itself, even when it ceases to resist, you listen to with enthusiasm. Should they not be priceless to him that has called them forth? That, however, is the delicious enjoyment which this heavenly woman offers me daily, and you reproach me for relishing its sweetness. Ah, the time will come only too soon, when, degraded by her fall, she will be to me no more than an ordinary woman. But in talking of her to you, I forget that I did not want to talk to you of her. I do not know what power constrains me, drags me back to her ceaselessly, even when I outrage her. Away with her dangerous idea. Let me become myself again, to treat a gayer subject. It concerns your pupil, who is now become my own, and I hope that here you will recognise me. Some days ago, being better treated by my gentle Puritan, and in consequence less engrossed by her, I remarked that the little Volanges was in fact extremely pretty, and that if there was folly in being in love with her, like Danceny, there was perhaps no less on my part in not seeking from her a distraction rendered necessary by my solitude. It seemed to me just, moreover, to repay myself for the care I was giving her. I reminded myself, as well, that you had offered her to me before Danceny had any pretensions, and I considered myself justified in claiming certain rights on a property which he only possessed because I had refused and relinquished it. The little person's pretty face, her fresh mouth, her infantile air, her very gaucherie, fortified these sage resolutions. I consequently resolved on action, and my enterprise has been crowned by success. You must already be wondering by what means I have so soon supplanted the favoured lover. What form of seduction befits such youth and such inexperience? Spare yourself the trouble. I employed none at all. Whereas you, wielding skilfully the weapons of your sex, triumph by subtlety, I, rendering his imprescriptible rights to man, subjugated by authority. Sure of my prey, if I could get within reach of it, I only required a ruse to approach her, and even that which I employed barely merits the name. I profited by the first letter which I received from Danceny for his fair, and after having let her know of it by the concerted signal, instead of employing my skill to get it into her hands, I used it to find a lack of means to do so. The impatience to which this gave rise I feigned to share, and after having caused the ill, I pointed out the remedy. The young person occupies a chamber, one door of which opens into the corridor, but naturally the mother had taken away the key. It was merely a question of obtaining possession of this. Nothing more easy of execution. I only asked to have it at my disposal for 2 hours, and I answered for the procural of one similar to it. Then correspondence, interviews, nocturnal rendezvous, everything became easy and safe. However, would you believe it, the timid child took alarm, and refused. Another man would have been in despair. For my part, I only saw there the occasion for a more piquant pleasure. I wrote to Danceny to complain of this refusal, and I did it so well that our blockhead had no peace until he had obtained from his timorous mistress, and even urged her that she should grant my request, and so surrender herself utterly to my discretion. I was mighty pleased, I confess, at having thus changed the rules, and induced the young man to do for me what he calculated I should do for him. This notion doubled, in my eyes, the value of the adventure. Thus, as soon as I had the precious key, I hastened to make use of it. This was last night. After assuring myself that all was quiet in the chateau, armed with my dark lantern, and in the costume befitting the hour which the circumstance demanded, I paid my first visit to your pupil. I had caused all preparations to be made, and that by herself, to permit of a noiseless entrance. She was in her first sleep, the sleep of her age, so that I reached her bedside before she had awakened. At first I was tempted to go even further, and try to pass for a dream. But fearing the effects of surprise and the noise which it entails, I preferred to awake the lovely sleeper with precautions, and did in fact succeed in preventing the cry which I feared. After calming her first fears, as I had not come there for conversation, I risked a few liberties. Doubtless she has not been well taught at her convent to how many varied perils timid innocence is exposed, and all that it has to guard, if it would not be surprised. For devoting all her attention, all her strength, to defending herself from a kiss, which was only a feigned attack, she left all the rest without defence. Who could fail to draw profit from it? I changed my tactics accordingly, and promptly took the position. Here we both alike had thought ourselves to be lost. The little girl, in a mighty scare, tried to cry out in good earnest. Luckily her voice was drowned by tears. She had thrown herself upon the bell rope, but my adroitness restrained her arm in time. What would you do? I asked her then. Ruin yourself utterly? Let any one come, what does it matter to me? Whom will you persuade that I am not here with your consent? Who else but you can have furnished me with the means of entering? And this key, which I have obtained from you, which I could only obtain from you, will you undertake to explain its use? This short harangue calmed neither her grief nor her anger, but it brought about her submission. I know not if I had the accents of eloquence. It is true, at any rate, that I had not its gestures. With one hand employed in force, the other in love, what orator could pretend to grace in such a situation? If you rightly imagine it, you will admit that at least it was favourable to the attack. But as for me, I have no head at all, and, as you say, the most simple woman, a schoolgirl, can lead me like a child. This one, whilst still in high dudgeon, felt that she must adopt some course, and enter into a compromise. As prayers found me inexorable, she had to resort to bargaining. You think I sold the important post dearly. No, I promised everything for a kiss. It is true that, the kiss once obtained, I did not keep my promise, but I had good reasons. Had we agreed whether it was to be taken or given? By dint of bargaining, we fell into an agreement over the second, and this one, it was said, was to be received. Then, guiding her timid arms round my body, and pressing her more amorously with one of mine, the soft kiss was effectually received. Nay, excellently, nay, perfectly received. So much so, indeed, that love itself could have done no better. Such good faith deserved a reward. Thus I at once granted her request. My hand was withdrawn, but I know not by what chance I found myself in its place. You will suppose me then mighty eager, energetic, will you not? By no means. I have acquired a taste for delay. I have told you. Once sure of arriving, why take the journey with such haste? Seriously, I was mighty pleased to observe once more the power of opportunity, and I found it here devoid of all extraneous aid. It had love to fight against, however, and love sustained by modesty and shame, and above all fortified by the temper which I had excited, and which had much effect. It was opportunity alone, but it was there, always offered, always present, and love was absent. To verify my observations, I was cunning enough to employ no more force than could be resisted. Only, if my charming enemy, abusing my good nature, seemed inclined to escape me, I constrained her by that same fear whose happy effects I had just experienced. Well, well, without any further trouble, the languishing fair, forgetful of her vows, began by yielding, and ended by consenting. Not that after this first moment there was not a return of mingled reproaches and tears. I am uncertain whether they were real or feigned, but as ever happens, they ceased as soon as I busied myself in giving cause for them anew. Finally, from frailty to reproach, and reproach to frailty, we separated, well satisfied with one another, and equally agreed on the rendezvous to-night. I did not retire to my own room until the break of day, and I was exhausted with fatigue and sleepiness. However, I sacrificed both to my desire to be present at breakfast this morning. I have a passion for watching faces on the day after. You can have no idea of this one. There was an embarrassment in the attitude, a difficulty in the gait, eyes always lowered, and so big and so heavy. The face, so round, was elongated. Nothing could have been more amusing. And for the first time her mother, alarmed at this extreme alteration, displayed a most tender interest in her, and the Présidente too, who was very busy about her. Those attentions of hers are only lent. A day will come when she will need them herself, and that day is not far distant. Adieu, my lovely friend. At the Château de 1st October 17.
Letter the 97th. Cécile Volanges to Madame de Merteuil.
Oh, my God, madame, I am in such distress. I am so unhappy. Who will console me in my trouble? Who will advise me in the embarrassment in which I am? That Monsieur de Valmont and Danceny. No, the idea of Danceny fills me with despair. How can I tell you? How can I relate it? I do not know what to do. However, my heart is full. I must speak to some one, and you are the only one whom I dare confide in. You have shown me so much kindness, but do not have any for me now. I am not worthy of it. What shall I say? I do not wish it. Everybody here has shown an interest in me to-day. They have all increased my grief. I felt so much that I did not deserve it. Oh, scold me, on the contrary, scold me well, for I am very guilty, but afterwards save me. If you have not the goodness to advise me, I shall die of grief. Listen, then. My hand trembles, as you see. I can hardly write. I can feel my face is all on fire. Oh, it is indeed the blush of shame. Ah, well, I will endure it. It will be the first punishment for my fault. Yes, I will tell you all. You must know then that Monsieur de Valmont, who has hitherto always handed me Mr. Danceny's letters, suddenly found it was too difficult. He wanted to have a key to my chamber. I can truly assure you that I did not want this, but he went so far as to write to Danceny, and Danceny also wished it, and as for me, it gives me so much pain to refuse him anything, especially since my absence, which makes him so unhappy, that I ended by consenting. I never foresaw the misfortune which it would lead to. Yesterday, Monsieur de Valmont made use of this key to come into my room when I was asleep. I was so little prepared for this, that he frightened me very much when he awoke me. But as he spoke to me at once, I recognized his voice, and did not cry out. And then the idea came to me at first that he had come perhaps to bring me a letter from Danceny. It was very far from that. A moment afterwards he tried to embrace me, and whilst I defended myself as was natural, he contrived to do what I would not have suffered for the whole world, but he would have a kiss first. It had to be done, for what was there to do? All the more, as I had tried to call out, but in addition to my not being able, he was careful to tell me that, if any one came, he would know how to put all the blame on me, and indeed it was very easy because of the key. Then he still refused to retire. He wanted a second one, and this one, I do not know how it was, but it quite confused me, and afterwards it was even worse than before. Oh, indeed, this is dreadful. In short, after... You will surely excuse me from telling the rest, but I am as unhappy as any one can be. What I reproach myself with the most, and of which I must nevertheless speak to you, is that I am afraid I did not resist as much as I might have. I do not know how it happened, and there were moments when it was just as though I loved him. You can imagine that did not prevent me from always saying no to him, but I felt sure that I did not act as I spoke, and that was in spite of myself. And then again, I was mightily confused. If it is always as difficult as that to resist, one ought to be well accustomed to it. It is true that Monsieur de Valmont has a way of saying things to which one does not know how to answer. At last, would you believe it, when he went away, it was as though I was sorry, and I was weak enough to consent to his returning this evening. That distresses me more even than all the rest. Oh, in spite of it, I promise you truly that I will prevent him from coming. He had hardly gone away before I felt how very wrong I had been in promising him. I wept too all the rest of the time. It is about Danceny, especially, that I am so grieved. Every time I thought of him, my tears flowed so fast that I was suffocated, and I did nothing but think of him. And now again, you see the result. Here is my paper, all soaked. No, I shall never be consoled, were it only because of him. At last I was worn out, and yet I was not able to sleep 1 minute. And this morning, on rising, when I looked at myself in the mirror, I was frightened, so much had I changed. Mamma perceived it as soon as she saw me, and asked me what was the matter. As for me, I started crying at once. I thought she was about to scold me, and perhaps that would have hurt me less, but on the contrary, she spoke gently to me. Little did I deserve it. She told me not to grieve like that. She did not know the cause of my grief. I should make myself ill. There are moments when I should like to be dead. I could not contain myself. I threw myself sobbing into her arms, and said to her, "Oh, mamma, your daughter is very miserable." Mamma could not keep herself from crying a little, and all this only increased my grief. Luckily she did not ask me why I was so unhappy, for I should not have known what to tell her. I implore you, madame, write to me as soon as you can and tell me what I ought to do, for I have not the courage to think of anything, and I can only grieve. Will you be so kind as to send your letter through Monsieur de Valmont? But if you write to him at the same time, do not, I beg you, tell him that I have said anything. I have the honour to be, madame, always with great affection, your most humble and obedient servant. I dare not sign this letter.
Letter the 98th. Madame de Volanges to the Marquise de Merteuil. It is but a few days ago, my charming friend, that you were asking me for consolation and advice. Today it is my turn, and I make you the same request which you made to me. I am indeed in real distress, and I fear that I have not taken the best means to remove the vexations from which I suffer. It is my daughter who is the cause of my anxiety. Since my departure I had seen she was always sad and melancholy, but I was prepared for that, and had armed my heart with the severity I judged necessary. I hoped that absence, distraction, would soon destroy a love which I looked upon rather as a childish error than as a real passion. However, far from having recovered since our sojourn here, I noticed that the child abandons herself more and more to a dangerous melancholy, and I am actually afraid that her health is suffering. Particularly during the last few days, it has visibly altered. Yesterday, above all, it struck me, and everybody here was genuinely alarmed. What proves to me, besides, how keenly she is affected, is that I see her prepared to overcome the shyness she has always shown with me. Yesterday morning, at the mere question I put to her as to whether she were ill, she threw herself into my arms, telling me that she was very miserable, and she cried till she sobbed. I cannot describe to you the pain it caused me. Tears came to my eyes at once, and I had only the time to turn away to prevent her from seeing them. Luckily I had sufficient prudence to put no questions to her, and she did not dare to tell me any more, but it is none the less clear that it is this unfortunate passion which is tormenting her. What course am I to take, however, if it lasts? Am I to be the cause of my daughter's unhappiness? Shall I blame her for the most precious qualities of the soul, sensibility and constancy? Am I her mother only for that? And if I should stifle that so natural sentiment which makes us desire the happiness of our children, if I should regard as a weakness what I hold, on the contrary, to be the most sacred of all duties, if I force her choice, shall I not have to answer for the disastrous consequences which may ensue? What a use to make of maternal authority, to give my daughter a choice between unhappiness and sin! My friend, I shall not imitate what I have so often blamed. Doubtless I have tried to make a choice for my daughter. I did, in that, but aid her with my experience. It was not a right which I exercised, but a duty which I fulfilled. I should betray one, on the contrary, were I to dispose of her to the neglect of an inclination, the birth of which I have not been able to prevent, and of which neither she nor I can judge the duration or the extent. No, I will never endure that she should marry one man that she may love another, and I would rather compromise my authority than her virtue. I think, therefore, that I shall be taking the more prudent course in retracting the promise I have given to M. de Gercourt. You have just heard my reasons for this. It seems to me they ought to outweigh my promises. I say more, in the state in which things are, to fulfil my engagement would really be to violate it. For, after all, if I owe it to my daughter not to betray her secret to M. de Gercourt, I owe it to him at least not to abuse the ignorance in which I keep him, and to do for him all that I believe he would do for himself, if he were informed. Shall I, on the contrary, betray him ignobly when he relies on my faith, and, whilst he honours me by choosing me for his second mother, deceive him in the choice he wishes to make of the mother of his children? These reflections, so true, and to me irrefutable, alarm me more than I can say. With the misfortunes which they make me dread, I compare my daughter, happy with the bridegroom her heart has chosen, knowing her duties only from the sweetness which she finds in fulfilling them, my son-in-law equally contented, and congratulating himself each day upon his choice, neither of them finding happiness save in the happiness of the other, and in that of cooperating to augment my own. Ought the hope of so sweet a future to be sacrificed to vain considerations? And what are those which restrain me? Only interested views. Pray, what advantage will my daughter gain from being born rich, if she is, none the less, to be the slave of fortune? I agree that M. de Gercourt is a better match, perhaps, than I ought to hope for my daughter. I confess, indeed, that I was extremely flattered at the choice he made of her. But, after all, Danceny is of as good a family as his. He yields no whit to him in personal qualities. He has over M. de Gercourt the advantage of loving and of being beloved. In truth, he is not rich. But has not my daughter enough for two? Ah, why ravish from her the sweet satisfaction of enriching him whom she loves? Those marriages which one calculates instead of assorting, which one calls marriages of convenience, and which are in fact convenient in all save taste and character, are they not the most fertile source of those scandalous outbreaks which become every day more frequent? I prefer to delay. At least I shall have time to study my daughter, whom I do not know. I have, indeed, the courage to cause her a passing sorrow, if she is to gain, thereby, a more substantial happiness, but I have not the heart to risk abandoning her to eternal despair. Those, my dear friend, are the ideas which torment me, and as to which I ask your advice. These serious topics contrast mightily with your amiable gaiety, and seem hardly fitting to your youth, but your reason has so far outgrown that. Your friendship, moreover, will assist your prudence, and I have no fear that either will refuse the maternal solicitude which invokes them. Adieu, my charming friend. Never doubt the sincerity of my sentiments. At the Château de 2nd October, 1700. Letter the 99th. The Vicomte de Valmont to the Marquise de Merteuil.
A few more small incidents, my lovely friend, but scenes merely, no more actions. Arm yourself, therefore, with patience, assume a stock of it even, for while my Présidente advances so imperceptibly, your pupil retreats, which is worse still. Well, well, I have wit enough to amuse myself with these vexations. Truly, I am acclimatizing myself mighty well to my sojourn here, and I may say that I have not experienced a single moment of ennui, in my old aunt's dreary chateau. In fact, do I not find here enjoyment, privation, uncertainty, and hope? What more has one upon a greater stage? Spectators, let me be, they will not be lacking. If they do not see me at work, I will show them my labour accomplished. They will only have to admire and applaud. Yes, they will applaud, for at last I can predict with certainty the moment of my austere Puritan's fall. I assisted this evening at the death struggle of virtue. Sweet frailty will now rule in its stead. I fix the time at a date no later than our next interview. But already I hear you crying out against vainglory. To announce one's victory, to boast in advance. Prithee, calm yourself. To prove my modesty, I will begin with the story of my defeat. In very truth, your pupil is a most ridiculous little person. She is indeed a child, whom one should treat as such, and whom one would favour by doing no more than putting her under penance. Would you believe that after what passed between us the day before yesterday, after the amicable manner in which we separated yesterday morning, when I sought to return in the evening, as she had agreed, I found her door bolted on the inside? What say you to that? Such childishness one sometimes meets with on the eve, but on the morrow is it not amusing? I did not, however, laugh at it at first. I had never felt so strongly the imperiousness of my character. Assuredly I was going to this rendezvous without pleasure, and solely out of politeness. My own bed, of which I had great need, seemed to me for the moment preferable to any one else's, and I had dragged myself from it with regret. No sooner, however, had I met with an obstacle than I burned to overcome it. I was humiliated above all that a child should have tricked me. I withdrew then in considerable ill humour, and with the intention of concerning myself no further with this silly child and her affairs. I had written her a note on the spur of the moment, which I intended to give her to day, and in which I accounted her at her just value. But night brings counsel, as they say. Methought this morning that, having no choice of distractions here, I had better keep this one. I suppressed, therefore, the severe letter. Since reflecting upon it, I wonder that I can ever have entertained the idea of concluding an adventure before holding in my hands the wherewithal to ruin the heroine. Observe, however, whither a first impulse impels us. Happy, my fair friend, is he who has trained himself, as you have, never to give way to one. In fine, I have postponed my vengeance. I have made this sacrifice to your intentions towards Gercourt. Now that I am no longer angry, I see your pupil's conduct only in a ridiculous light. In fact, I should be glad to know what she hopes to gain thereby. As for myself, I am at a loss. If it be only to defend herself, you must admit that she is somewhat late in starting. Some day she will have to tell me herself the key to this enigma. I have a great desire to know it. It may be, perhaps, only that she found herself fatigued. Frankly, that might well be possible. For without a doubt she is still ignorant that the darts of love, like the lance of Achilles, bear their own remedy for the ills they cause. But nay, by the little wry face she pulled all day, I would wager that there enters into it repentance. There's something like virtue. Virtue. It becomes her indeed to show it. Let her leave it to the woman veritably born to it, to be the only one who knows how to embellish it, who could make it lovable. Pardon, my fair friend, but it is this very evening that there occurred between Madame de Tourvel and myself the scene of which I am about to send you an account, and I still feel some emotion at it. I have need to do myself violence in order to distract me from the impression which it made upon me. 'Tis even to aid me in this that I have sat down to write to you. Something must be pardoned to this first moment. It is some days already since we are agreed, Madame de Tourvel and I, upon our sentiments. We only dispute about words. It was always in truth her friendship which responded to my love, but this conventional language did not change things in substance, and had we remained thus, I should have gone perhaps less quickly, but not less surely. Already, even, there was no more question of driving me away, as she had wished at first. And as for the interviews which we have daily, if I devote my cares to offering her the occasions, she devotes hers to seizing them. As it is ordinarily when walking that our little rendezvous occur, the shocking weather which set in to-day left me no hope. I was even really vexed by it. I did not foresee how much I was to gain from this contretemps. Being unable to go out, they started play after rising from table. As I play little and am no longer indispensable, I chose this time to go to my own room, with no other intention than to wait there until the game was likely to be over. I was on my way to rejoin the company when I met the charming woman. She was about to enter her apartment, and whether from imprudence or weakness, she said to me in her gentle voice, "Where are you going? There is nobody in the salon." I needed no more, as you may believe, to try and enter her room. I met with less resistance than I expected. It is true that I had taken the precaution to commence the conversation at the door, and to commence it indifferently. But hardly were we settled than I brought back the real subject, and spoke of my love for my friend. Her first reply, though simple, seemed to me sufficiently expressive. "Oh, I pray you," said she, "do not let us speak of that here." And she trembled. Poor woman, she sees she is lost. However, she was wrong to be afraid. For some time past, assured of success some day or other, and seeing that she was spending so much strength in useless struggles, I had resolved to husband my own, and to wait without further effort, until she should surrender from lassitude. You are quite aware that here I require a complete triumph, and that I wish to owe nothing to opportunity. It was indeed owing to this preconceived plan, and in order to be pressing without engaging myself too far, that I came back to this word love, so obstinately declined. Sure that my ardour was sufficiently believed in, I tried a tone more tender. Her refusal no longer put me out, it pained me. Did not my sensitive friend owe me some consolation? As she consoled me withal, one hand lingered in my own. The lovely form leaned upon my arm, and we were drawn extremely near. You have surely remarked in such a situation how, in proportion to the weakening of the defence, entreaties and refusals pass at closer quarters, how the head is averted and the gaze cast down, whilst remarks, always uttered in a weak voice, become rare and intermittent. These precious symptoms announce, in no equivocal manner, the soul's consent, but it has rarely yet extended to the senses. I even hold that it is always dangerous to attempt just then any too marked assault, because this state of self-abandonment, being never without a very sweet pleasure, one knows not how to dispel it without giving rise to a humour which is invariably in the favour of the defence. But in the present case, prudence was all the more necessary to me, in that I had above all to dread the alarm which this forgetfulness of herself could not fail to induce in my gentle dreamer. Thus, this avowal which I demanded, I did not even require that it should be pronounced. A glance would suffice. Only one glance, and I was happy. My lovely friend, her fine eyes were in fact raised to mine. Her celestial mouth even uttered, "Well, yes, But on a sudden her gaze was withdrawn, her voice failed, and this adorable woman fell into my arms. Hardly had I had time to receive her, when, extricating herself with convulsive force, her eyes wild, her hands raised to heaven, "God, oh my God, save me!" she cried, and at once, swifter than lightning, she was on her knees 10 paces from me. I could hear her ready to suffocate. I advanced to her assistance, but seizing one of my hands, which she bedewed with tears, sometimes even embracing my knees, "Yes, it shall be you," she said, "it shall be you who will save me. You do not wish my death. Leave me. Save me. Leave me. In the name of God, leave me." And these inconsequent utterances barely escaped through her redoubled sobs. Meanwhile she held me with a strength which did not permit me to withdraw. Then, collecting my own, I raised her in my arms. At the same instant her tears ceased. She said no more. All her limbs stiffened, and violent convulsions succeeded to this storm. I was, I confess, deeply moved, and I believe I should have consented to her request, had not circumstances compelled me to do so. The fact remains that after rendering her some assistance, I left her, as she prayed me, and I congratulate myself on this. I have already almost received the reward. I expected that, as on the day of my first declaration, she would not appear that evening. But towards 8 o'clock she came down to the salon, and only informed the company that she had been greatly indisposed. Her face was dejected, her voice feeble, her attitude constrained. But her gaze was soft, and was often fixed upon me. Her refusal to play having even compelled me to take her place, she took up hers at my side. During supper she remained alone in the salon when we returned. Methought I saw that she had wept. To make certain, I told her that I feared she still felt the effects of her indisposition, to which she answered me obligingly, "The complaint does not go as quickly as it comes." Finally, when we retired, I gave her my hand, and at the door of her apartment she pressed mine with vigour. 'Tis true, this movement seemed to me to have something involuntary, but so much the better. It is a proof the more of my empire. I would wager that at present she is enchanted to have reached this stage. The cost is paid. There is nothing left but to enjoy. Perhaps, whilst I am still writing to you, she is already occupied with this soft thought. And even if she is employed, on the contrary, on a fresh project of defence, do we not know well what becomes of all such plans? I ask you then, can it go further than our next interview? I quite expect, by the way, that there will be some ceremony about the surrender. Very good. But once the first step is taken, do these austere prudes ever know where to stop? Their love is a veritable explosion. Resistance lends it greater force. My shy Puritan would run after me if I ceased to run after her. In short, my lovely friend, I shall on an early day be with you to claim fulfilment of your word. You have not forgotten, doubtless, what you promised me after success, that infidelity to your chevalier. Are you ready? For myself, I desire it as much as if we had never known each other. For the rest, to know you is perhaps a reason for desiring it more. Je suis juste et ne suis point galant.
Note, Voltaire, Nanine.
Moreover, it shall be the first infidelity I will make to my serious conquest, and I promise you to profit by the first pretext to be absent for 24 hours from her. It shall be her punishment for keeping me so long away from you. Do you know that this adventure has occupied me for more than 2 months? Yes, 2 months and 3 days. It is true that I include to-morrow, since it will not be truly consummated till then. That reminds me that Madame de B held out for 3 whole months. I am most pleased to see that frank coquetry possesses more power of resistance than austere virtue. Adieu, my lovely friend. I must leave you, for it is mighty late. This letter has led me on further than I had intended, but as I am sending to Paris to-morrow, I was fain to profit by it to let you participate one day sooner in the joy of your friend. At the Chateau de 2nd October 17, in the evening.
Letter the 100th. The Vicomte de Valmont to the Marquise de Merteuil.
Oh, my friend, I am tricked, betrayed, lost. I am in despair. Madame de Tourvel has gone. She has gone, and I did not know it. And I was not there to oppose departure, to reproach her with her unworthy treachery. Ah, do not think I would have let her leave. She would have stayed. Yes, she would have stayed if I had had to employ violence. But think, in credulous security I slept tranquilly. I slept, and the thunderbolt has fallen upon me. No, I do not understand this departure at all. I must abandon all hope of understanding women. When I recall the events of yesterday, what do I say, even of yesterday night? That glance so sweet, that voice so tender, and that pressure of the hand, and all the time she was planning flight from me. Oh, women, women! After this complain that you are deceived. Yes, any perfidy that one employs is a theft from your store. What pleasure I shall take in avenging myself! I shall find her again, this perfidious woman. I shall resume my empire over her. If love sufficed to procure me the means of that, what will it not do when assisted by vengeance? I shall see her again at my knees, trembling and bathed in tears, and I shall be pitiless. What does she at present? What does she think? Perhaps she applauds herself for having deceived me, and, faithful to the tastes of her sex, this pleasure seems to her the sweetest. What the so greatly vaunted virtue could not obtain, the spirit of ruse has brought about without an effort. Madman that I was, I dreaded her virtue. It was her ill faith that I had to fear. And to be obliged to swallow my resentment, to dare show no more than a gentle sorrow, when I have a heart full of rage, to see myself reduced once more to be suppliant to a rebellious woman who has escaped from my sway. Ought I to be humiliated to such a degree? And by whom? By a timid woman who was never practised in fight. What does it serve me to have established myself in her heart, to have scorched her with all the fires of love, to have carried the trouble of her senses to the verge of delirium, if, calm in her retreat, she can to-day plume herself more on her escape than I upon my victories? And should I suffer it? My friend, you do not believe it. You have no such humiliating idea of me. But what fatality attaches me to this woman? Are there not 100 others who desire my attentions? Will they not be eager to respond to them? Even if none were worth this one, Does not the attraction of variety, the charm of fresh conquests, the pride of numbers, offer pleasure sweet enough? Why run after that which eludes us, and neglect what is in our path? Oh, why? I know not, but I feel it extremely. Oh, there is no happiness or peace for me, save in the possession of this woman, whom I hate and love with equal fury. I will only support my lot from the moment when I shall dispose of hers. Then, tranquil and satisfied, I shall see her in her turn given over to the storms which I experience at this moment. I will excite 1,000 others more. Hope and fear, security and distrust, all the ills devised by hate, all the good that love affords, I want them to fill her heart, to succeed one another at my will. That time shall come. Oh, but how many labours yet! How near I was yesterday! And how far away I see myself to-day! How to approach her again? I dare not take any measure. I feel that before I adopt any course I need greater calmness, and my blood leaps within my veins. Oh, what enhances my torment is the calm with which every one here replies to my questions upon this event, upon its cause, and all the extraordinary features it presents. No one knows anything, no one cares to know anything. They would hardly have spoken of it had I allowed them to speak of anything else. Madame de Rosemonde, to whom I hastened this morning when I learned the news, answered me with the indifference of her age, that it was the natural result of the indisposition which seized Madame de Tourvel yesterday, that she had been afraid of an illness, and had preferred to be at home. She thinks it quite simple. She would have done the same, she told me. As if there could be anything in common between the two. Between her, who has only death before her, and the other, who is the charm and torment of my life. Madame de Volanges, whom I at first suspected of being an accomplice, seems only to be affected in that she was not consulted as to the step. I am delighted, I confess, that she has not had the pleasure of harming me. That proves again that she is not in this woman's confidence to the extent I feared. That is always one enemy the less. How pleased she would be with herself if she knew that it was I who was the cause of the flight. How swollen with pride if it had been through her counsels. How her importance would have been enhanced. Great God, how I hate her! I will renew with her daughter, I will mould her to my fantasy. I think, therefore, I shall remain here for some time. At least the little reflection I have been able to make leads me to this course. Do you not think, in fact, that after so marked a step my ingrate must dread my presence? If then the idea has come to her that I might follow her, she will not fail to close her door to me, and I wish as little to accustom her to that means as to endure the humiliation. I prefer, on the contrary, to announce to her that I shall remain here. I will even make entreaties for her return, and when she is persuaded of my absence, I will appear at her house. We shall see how she supports the interview. Oh, but I must postpone it in order to enhance the effect, and I know not yet if I have the patience. 20 times to-day I have opened my mouth to call for my horses. However, I will command myself. I promise to await your reply here. I only beg you, my lovely friend, not to keep me waiting for it. The thing which would thwart me the most would be not to know what is passing, but my chasseur, who is in Paris, has certain rights of access to the waiting maid. He will be able to serve me. I am sending him instructions and money. I beg you to find it good that I join both to this letter, and also to be at the pains to send them to him by one of your people, with orders to place them in his own hands. I take this precaution because the rascal is in the habit of failing to receive the letters I write to him, when they command him some task which irks him. And for the moment he does not seem to me so enamoured of his conquest as I could wish him to be. Oh, adieu, my lovely friend. If any happy idea comes to you, any means of accelerating my progress, inform me of it. I have more than once had experience of how useful your friendship can be to me. I experience it even at this moment, for I feel calmer since I have written to you. At least I am speaking to someone who understands me, and not to the automata with whom I vegetate since this morning. For in truth, the further I go, the more am I tempted to believe that you and I are the only people in the world who are of any consequence. At the Château de 3rd October, 17.
End of section 20.